This is your no fluff, no nonsense beginner guide to Balance Druid in Season 3 The War Within. Everything you need to be ready for Mythic Plus and Raiding. So before I get your Balance Druid ready for Mythic Plus and Raiding, let's take a moment to talk about our sponsor, which is ExpressVPN. When I'm gaming or streaming World of Warcraft, the last thing I want is lag spikes or worrying about my connection being snooped on. That's why I use ExpressVPN. Here's the app, super simple, one click and I'm connected. What it does is hide my IP address and encrypt my traffic so I can play securely no matter where I am. Another thing I really like is that ExpressVPN keeps my connection stable when I'm on public Wi-Fi, whether I'm at a cafe, traveling, or streaming from a hotel. I don't have to worry about anyone tracking my data or slowing me down. I've even used it to connect to different game servers. For example, when my friends were playing on different regions, ExpressVPN let me switch my online location and join them. It's seriously that easy. So if you want to stay secure while you game or unlock more from the internet, check this out. Find out how you can get 4 months free by clicking the link in the description box below, expressvpn.com/Biggie Sweats. Before talents, here's what Balance is good at and what to watch out for. Is good on AoE pools, like real AoE pools. If packs live more than a few seconds, we shine. If they don't, we crumble. Keep Sunfire and Moonfire up on as many targets as you can. Drop Starfall and cast Starfire to cleave. Hard to kill when you need it. Press Bear Form and Barkskin together. That's more armor, more health, 20% less damage. Damage dips, but you will stay alive. We're squishy outside of this stuff. We have great group tools. Innovate for your healer, Typhoon to knock and stop casts, Roots, Mass Entanglement from control, Mighty Bash to stun, and we can rebirth for a battle res. Some of our weaknesses though, you need a few globals to tag mobs and build Astral Power. Burst specs win the first 3 to 5 seconds. Not many damage talent swaps. The main damage build is mostly fixed. You'll change utility more than DPS nodes. Now, how to play around those downsides. Before a pull, start casting to enter some Astral Power. Your Starfall lands early. So as you're pre-pulling, you want to be moon firing each mob as you can. And then when they're grouped, hit that big Sunfire on everything. On fast packs, do not moonfire every target because it's just going to waste time and you're going to lose out on a lot of damage. So Sunfire, Starfall, Starfire Cleave, move on. For big hits, you want a Bear and Barkskin for that spike damage and then renewable if you take too much. Drop a Bear and go back to blasting as soon as it's safe. Use control for uptime. So Typhoon to keep mobs in Starfall, Roots and Mass to spark stragglers. Now with the strengths and weaknesses out of the way, we can move on to the real stuff. Now up first is our stat priority. These look a little bit different depending on the content that you're doing. Now if we're Keeper of the Grove Balance Druid, which is mainly a single target build, we're going to be looking at Intellect, Mastery, Crit, Verse, then Haste. But on the flip side, if we're going Elun's Chosen build, which is more of an AoE build, more of your dungeon build, it's going to be Intellect, Mastery, Haste, Crit, and then Verse. So look at this, look at how you build your character, what you're kind of aiming more to do, or even have 2 sets that you use for each. And of course, always sim your character. Simming is weird with Druid. We can't do a dungeon size sim, but according to the Druid's Discord and among other stuff, you can just do patchwork, 1 boss, 5 minutes, as it doesn't really change too much. Next part of the guide is going to be talents. I'm going to give you 2 builds. One for single target that's going to be used on most raid bosses and never really for dungeons. And then one for AoE that can be used on AoE bosses like Soulbinder and mainly in dungeons. Up first, we have Keepers of the Grove, which is going to be our single target raid build. We're going to use this on most single target encounters. Up first, on the left-hand side, we have the Druid overall spec talents. In row 1, we are going Frenzied Regeneration for that defensive boost and heal in bear form. Then we're going into Starfire. In row 2, we are going Ursoc's Spirit and into Star Surge. In row 3, we're going Verdant Heart and Moonkin form. Obviously, we go Moonkin form. We need to do some damage. In row 4, we're going Killer Instinct, only 1 point. And Improved Barkskin, 2 points into Nurturing Instinct and Sunfire. As you can see, we take a lot of our main damage abilities here. In row 5, we're going Thick Hide, Natural Recovery, and Astral Influence. In row 6, we are going Wild Charge, or we can go into Tiger's Dash as well if you want that sprint, but I love having that disengage flyback style ability to get out of things that might get me stuck or hit me with damage. Then we are going into Soothe, which is going to dispel enrage effects on mobs. Really good. Then we are going into Renewal for that fat chunk of heal that we can just have every 1.5 minutes. Then we are going Starlight Conduit. In row 7, we are going Feline Swiftness, Well-Honed Instincts. So this is more defensive. Matted Fur, Stampeding Roar, great utility for the group, increases the speed of everyone and puts you into bear form. Then we are going Mass Entanglement. Ursa's Vortex can work as well, just depending on the boss. Then in row 8, we are going Oak Skin, Perfectly Honed Instincts. 2 points into Lycara's Teachings, Law of the Grove, and Innovate. We can put this on our healers, allowing them to cast spells without spending mana for 8 seconds. Great in a raid environment where they need some burst healing or they're running low on mana. Then in row 9, we are going Ursine Vigor, Improved Stampeding Roar, Circle of the Heavens, and Lycara's Inspiration. And then in the final row, we are just taking Fluid Form. Then the main point of this, our hero talents, the Keeper of the Grove talents, we are obviously going Dream Surge, Treants of the Moon, Expansiveness, Protective Growth. We are going into Power of Nature. This removes the taunt from our treants and increases their melee damage, as we don't need this tauntable ability in raids and or dungeons. Then we are going into Cenaria's Might. We are going into Grove's Inspiration, just increasing damage and healing. Then we are going into Early Spring. We are going into Control the Dream, Blooming Infusion, and finally Harmony of the Grove. Now in the final section of the Balance Druid talents, the actual spec talents, we are going into Eclipse. In row 2, we are going Shooting Stars and Solar Beam. Solar Beam is our interrupt. It is a group interrupt, but has a long cooldown, so use it wisely. In row 3, we are going Solstice, and we are going into Force of Nature. Summons 3 treants. They won't taunt, but it also generates Astral Power. Then in row 4, we are going into Wild Surges, Nature's Balance, and Nature's Grace. In row 5, we're going Astral Smolder, Celestial Alignment, so our main CD. This is going to be chunky, it's going to increase your damage all around, and you use it on burst. Then we are going into Umbral Intensity. Then in row 6, we are going Sunseeker Mushroom. So whenever you apply Starfire, it has a chance to proc these mushrooms that increase damage. Then we are going Stellar Amplification, Soul of the Forest, and Whirling Stars. And finally, in this row, Astronomical Impact. In row 7, we are going 2 points into Cosmic Rapidity, Crashing Star, and Umbral Embrance, and then 2 points into Starlord. There is a way to play around Starlord that increases your damage, but it is very hard to pull off, and for a beginner, I wouldn't even risk it, as you will lose damage if you fail to make it work. Then in row 8, we are going Waning Twilight, 2 points into Balance of All Things, Power of Goldrin, and finally Rattle of the Stars. In row 10, we are going Harmony of the Heavens and Convoke the Spirits. Again, this is a channeled ability. We just spam all of them out. It goes well right at the start with our burst and lined up with our CDs. Just don't press anything while you're casting it, as it will cut it short. And then in the final row, we are going Denizen of the Dream. As I said, single target, raid talents, they can be used in dungeons, not very effective, but this is going to be for all our chunky single target bosses. Now, next we have our Mythic Dungeon or AoE build. Now, this will only be used on a few bosses in the raid, but bear in mind, if your group's full of pumpers, it's not going to be good and you're going to lose damage playing this. But most of the time, this is going to be your go-to AoE build, especially in Mythic Plus. Now, I'm going to cover the changes as not to take too long. Obviously, the hero talents have changed, the right side has a few changes, and the left side has a few utility changes. So let's start on the left side. We're going straight into the third row. We're going into Remove Corruption. Now, this helps in a lot of dungeons. It removes all curses and poison effects on yourself, and it only has an 8-second cooldown. It can be used on others as well, but mostly this is going to be beneficial to you. Then we are going into Light of the Sun, which is going to reduce the solar beam cooldown by 15 seconds when it interrupts your primary target. Then we are going into Typhoon and Ursul's Vortex. Combine these together, so whack down the Ursul's Vortex, Typhoon them, and it will shoot everything out and pull it all back into a nice tight-knit group. Then we are heading down here into Incapacitating Roar. This will let you shift into bear form and incapacitate all enemies, basically just interrupting and or slightly stunning them until they take damage. This is wonderful in a dungeon environment. Get this on your bars. And then finally, we are going into Nature's Vigil. So for 15 seconds, all of your single target damage also heals a nearby friendly target for 20% of your damage done. Great in dungeon environments if you know there's going to be a lot of damage going out. Then obviously, we've changed all of the hero talents. We're going Illusion Chosen this time instead of Keepers. So we are going obviously Boundless Moonlight, then Moon Guardian, Lunar Insight, Glistening Fur, Lunar Amplification, Atmospheric Exposure. We're choosing Moon Dust, so all your enemies are slowed for 20% that hit with Moonfire. Then we are going into Lunar Calling. Then we are going into Light of a Loon, Lunation, and then finally the Eternal Moon. Now, that's your hero talents. Obviously, these will be imported, so, even if you don't want to learn them, you can just import them in and use them. Then on the right side of the tree, we have some significant changes that are obviously going to push this more to an AoE build. So, up first, in the third row, instead of Treants, we're going Warrior of a Loon. Basically makes your Starfires instant cast and increased 30% Astral Power. Then we are going into Twin Moons, and we are going Aetherial Kindling. All of this is to increase your AoE, right? Then we're going to jump straight down to the bottom end. Instead of Orbit Breakout, we are going Sundered Firmament. And we are going Umbral Inspiration here. Then instead of Convoke, as Convoke isn't very good on AoE situations, we are going Incarnation, Chosen of a Loon. So it's like an improvement on your main CD, and it's going to be amazing when you line up your Starfires, your Starforge, your Star Surge. It's your big CD, basically. Then we are going into Fury of a Loon. Basically whacks down a huge beam on your target, which is also procced by your hero talent, so you can have two going at once. It's just fat damage at the start. And then finally into Radiant Moonlight. This is going to be your go-to Mythic Plus AoE build, and has always worked me wonders. Here are some examples of details meters, and it's always done me well. So let's lock in gems, enchants, consumables. I'll give you the safe defaults, then quick craft tips. Gems and enchants by slot. So gems, our primistic, our main ones. Use one elusive blasphemite for a bit more safety, or one culminating blasphemite for pure damage. Fill the rest with whatever sims highest for your character. So head over to raid bots, click your gems, and see what it fits in. Then weapon enchants. We're going Authority of the Depths for single target and raid, and Authority of Radiant Power for AoE and Mythic Plus. Our chest is going to be Crystalline Radiance. Our cloak, Chant of the Winged Grace. Our legs, Sunset Spell Thread. Wrists, Chant of Armored Avoidance. Boots, Scout's March for speed, or Defender's March for defense. Now rings, pick the best secondary stat for your toon. If you don't know, let your sim decide. If you don't and want safe, Mastery Crit or Mastery Haste, depending on what you're doing. Consumables. So your potion is going to be the Tempered Potion. Your food is going to be the Feast of Midnight Masquerade or Beladar's Bounty. Your flask is going to be Flask of Alchemical Chaos or Flask of Tempered Mastery. Or if you're really, really, really low in something, you can take the flask to improve that stat. But most of the time, it's not worth it. And our weapon oil rune is going to be the Algari Mana Oil. Now, embellishments and crafting. This can always be a weird section, so I'm going to give you a few paths here and some general tips. Your path A is simple and strong early. Craft a two-handed staff with Ascension. This is a great early boost for most players, and you probably won't ever replace the weapon unless you get something on Mythic. Then we have path B, if you get a lucky weapon drop. If your guild gets you the Void Glass Chris Heroic, which I've just got last night, you can craft the offhand with Ascension instead. Spend your free enchanted rune crafts on braces with Riving Armor Banding. That combo can be a great upgrade. So basically, two-handed staff plus wrists, right? If not, get the one-handed weapon from Fractalus, craft an offhand, and then wrists. That's the best tip. You want Writhing Armor Banding and Ascension. That's it. And a quick fire finisher on that section just then. Let's talk Seer's Circlet, the Disc Belt, and the Reshii Wraps. So Seer's Circlet will be almost instantaneously replaced by any ring this season. And then the belt, it will be replaced later on. If you get a heroic belt and you feel like it might be an upgrade, I would sim it because there's potential on it. If not, you want to be looking at obviously the mods. So Static Charge is Verse, Critical Chain is Crit, Electric Current is Mastery, and Spark Burst is Haste. They're all extremely close. I would advise simming each one, but if not, Electric Current, Critical Chain, and Spark Burst, depending on what you think you need to bring up, are all going to be good choices here. Then finally, the Reshii Wraps, the big item from Season 3 that is now currently maxed out at 730. This week, as the video drops, it is maxed out. It can be done on your ults instantly. You can gain the currency on your ults to upgrade it, everything. And there's a macro, so you can use it anywhere. I'll pop it in the description for you guys. Your Cloak Fibers add secondary stats. Again, I would sim it, but you can buy any of them for free and just replace them at will. Or if you got a guild or crafting, you can have someone craft the improved version. Honestly, mastery, crit, again, haste, depending on what you want to bring up, is going to be your defaults here. Now let's finish up talking about gear and your trinkets, and then we're going to move on to the final section, which is the rotation. Now, a quick warning. So always sim with raid bots, top gear. This list assumes highest item level and can shift with tuning. Now, your priority number one, in my opinion, is getting that 4-piece tier set ASAP. It's a major damage boost and worth small trinket compromises. Now, moving straight on to the trinket tier list, our 2 S-tier trinkets are both going to be from the raid this time. It's Astral Antenna from Lumafar and Araz's Ritual Forge from Forgebinder Araz in the raid. Now, some other picks in the A-tier section that are going to work well. Diamantine Void Core. Now, this is very good if you compare it with the single-handed weapon we spoke about earlier, the Void Glass Chris, which gives you 2 set, Signet of Priory from the dungeon, Azikaran, Parapodia, and Lily from Ecodome. So Leah's technique is okay, and then the Empowering Crystal of Anuba Ikaj. I can't even speak, but they are the best trinkets that we should be aiming for. Any combination of them will work really well, and obviously if you get Antenna and Forge, purely for single target as well, are going to be very, very big increases as they're just huge stat sticks. Now, make sure we like, subscribe, comment on the video and the clash you want to see next, or any questions you might have. Now, let's go into the most important and final part of the guide, the rotation in the simplest way possible. Now, the core idea is to build Astral Power with Wrath and Starfire, keep Moonfire and Sunfire up, and spend Star Surge, which is single target, or Starfall AoE. Try to fight inside an Eclipse as much as possible. Now, what is Eclipse? Eclipse in one line is cast Starfire twice, Solar Eclipse, it buffs Wrath. Cast Wrath twice, Lunar Eclipse buffs Starfire. Each Eclipse lasts 15 seconds, be in one whenever you can. The general rules that never change. Keep Moonfire and Sunfire up, refresh near the end of their timers. Don't cap Astral Power, spend before you hit the max, and Star Surge on single target, and Starfall on AoE. We're going to start with some single target Keeper of the Grove stuff, which is the opener. So we are going to be Wrath, so you enter Lunar Eclipse on pre-pull. You want to do this about 3 or 4 seconds before. Then we're going to Moonfire and Sunfire. Then we're going to Celestial Alignment or Incarnation, plus your Trinket and Potion. Then we're going to Force of Nature, so we're going to drop our Treants. We're going to spend any Astral Power on Star Surge or Starfall if single target. After you've dumped your Astral Power, keep it around 40 so you don't overcap, we're going to Convoke the Spirits. If you have Dream Surge, then spend it on Wrath casts, and then we're going to move into our standard priority targets. Now, the single target priority listing for Keeper of the Grove single target, moving on from our opener, is we're always going to apply and maintain Sunfire and Moonfire before they fall off, around 30% of their duration left. We're going to use Force of Nature outside of Eclipse if your next ability is Celestial Alignment. Only save Force of Nature if Convoke the Spirits will be off cooldown in 25 seconds. We're going to cast Celestial Alignment if you have just cast Force of Nature, unless you're saving it to line up with Convoke. Then we're going to cast Wrath to spend the Dream Surge, unless you will cap Astral Power. Cast Convoke the Spirits if you have cast Force of Nature and Celestial Alignment and have less than 40 Astral Power. If you are not entering cooldowns, cast 2 Starfire set in a Solar Eclipse, cast Force of Nature, this is obviously outside of your Incarn and Convoke, and spend Dream Surge using Wrath unless you will cap Astral Power again. Cast Star Surge to spend that Astral Power, maintain Star-Lord, or to spend Touch the Cosmos, and cast Wrath to generate Astral Power. This is your basic priority listing. What I've just done on screen while doing this can give you a better example of what's going on. Now, next, let's talk about Elun's Chosen. So this is going to be your Mythic Plus or AoE build. Now, this also has an opener. Obviously, if you're doing bosses or dungeons or you're going into something, it's going to have an opener. So let's start. Note, with Lunar Calling, you can't enter Solar. So play around Lunar Eclipse and Starfire. That's your whole point of your Elun's Chosen build. Now, pre-pull, you will cast Wrath twice so you can start Lunar Eclipse. Then we're going to Moonfire and Sunfire, everything that's around, obviously. Then we're going to Trinket, Potion, then we're going to use cooldowns. So single target, you're going to Incarn and Fury of Elune, but 2+ targets, you're going to Fury of Elune and then Incarn. We're going to spend any AP we have on Star Surge for single target and Starfall for AoE. And then we're going to build AP with Starfire. Any procs for like Wrath or entering Lunar, you can Wrath. Now, the opener is very similar to the single target priority. So instead of covering that in more, because it's not much more to cover, we're going to talk about how your multi-target priority works, as this will be super important in dungeon environments and with this build. So again, we can't enter Solar, so we're always playing in Lunar Eclipse and Starfire. Now, we're going to use Warrior of Elude on cooldown. The buff sticks, popping it early is fine. We're going to keep our dots up on as many things as we can. Apply only if the target is going to live. So Sunfire, Moonfire, and Refresh later on. Obviously, if they're going to live. There's no point in Moonfiring every single target and they live 3 seconds and you've wasted a key bunch of time. But if you know the pack's going to live, so higher keys, bigger pools, try to dot as much as you can up, then go into your rotation. So the AoE order is Fury of Elune into Celestial Alignment, and if you're not entering cooldowns, we're going to Wrath twice to enter Eclipse. We're going to spend our Astral Power on Starfall to keep uptime, or Star Surge if the priority target needs a bit of pump. Now, don't cap the AP, keep Starlord at 3, use Touch of Cosmos procs, and build Astral Power with your Starfire. Dots only on mobs that live. Fury into CA for AoE burst. Starfall spend, Starfire to build, and stay in that Lunar. Now, guys, that has been the beginner Balance Druid guide for Season 3. Hopefully, every topic has been covered, and this will help you get ready for Mythic Plus and Raiding, or even just slightly improve somewhat. Now, the rotations, I hope, were helpful and all on screen for you. Guys, make sure we like, subscribe, comment down below, stay tuned for more, and come and check us out over on twitch.tv/Biggie Sweats. We're live all week. We do keys, we do viewer raids, and more. We're doing a challenge to get 3K on every class before Season 3 ends. Until next time, guys, peace.